Welcome back to the Eagle Eye Perspective, where we highlight the boldest brands and brightest minds within franchising. I'm your host, Maci Bingman, and today I'm joined by founder of One Tom Plumber, a brand that's redefining what emergency plumbing looks like. Known for their 90-minute response model, bold pink branding, and very impressive 1.7 million average unit revenues. One Tom Plumber is providing the speed, trust, and purpose that can build a powerful franchise system. Whether you're in restoration, plumbing, or simply exploring your next business venture, you'll want to tune in. I'm joined today by the founder, Rocky. If you would go ahead and give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Hello there. My name's Rocky Hensley, and probably like most of you guys, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Built and sold 12 businesses along the way. One of them, in 2004, I sold to Berkshire Hathaway grew a company to $110 million and realized that didn't really enjoy the big build. So I built and sold a lot of businesses up to about 10 million and sold them off. But this one here, we're going to the stratosphere with this one. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And Rocky, what kind of inspired you to start One Tom Plumber, and how did that vision kind of take shape? Because it is very different from other plumbing
Mhm.
franchises in the space.
Yep, that's a great question. I was inspired because I was also had a restoration business, and the restoration business was very business centric. 80% of our business was commercial, basically. I always say that we were ServPro for high rises and big warehouses, and we were just constantly always waiting to get somebody there to do the plumbing so we could start the cleanup services. And at that point in time, I think I had four businesses going and I was a little bored. So I said, why not? Let's do it. Let's get another one going, So, but that was my inspiration. And, one of the things that we realized was how underserved the emergency and service piece of plumbing was. And the other thing that we realized is that 83% of all plumbing calls are done by women or female orientation, they call it. So that was the inspiration and why the look and the colors and everything like that. And we started out here in Cincinnati and we were killing it. And 4.5 years ago, we started franchising.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you said earlier that you decided to focus more on restoration because that was the business you were in, and there's a need for that plumbing. So, with that focus on the plumbing specifically, how is that different from a traditional plumbing business? And how does that differ with the services you offer?
That you're hitting home runs with the questions, okay? The most plumbers, and it's okay, this is just the way it is they're happy when their guys are scheduled out for 2, 3 weeks, okay? And because I was already in the emergency service business, I was used to people sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. So I didn't have that element to where I needed to schedule my guys out. In fact, we realized is from a profitability standpoint, as we got into the plumbing space, the service and especially the emergency piece was extremely profitable compared to things that you're bidding against other people. And so we just went with that model and basically said anything under this line, profitability, we don't do, and anything above that line of profitability, and it ended up being emergency and service plumbing. But it also, what we didn't realize is that it made us stand out, and that most people, when they call a plumbing company, they're like, oh, they told me they're going to be here at noon, and then they didn't show up until the next day, or we're waiting and waiting. We're not sure when they're going to show up. They're telling me they're all covered up. It was just a constant battle. It seemed like to get plumbers to show up. Once they showed up, they did a great job, but there's a real shortage on the plumbing side also, and plumbers. So they're used to being the guy, and hey, I don't have to show up on time because I'm still going to get the business. Who else are they going to call? Because those people have a waiting list too. So we just realized that piece of the plumbing industry is being underserved. And one of the things that we did, we just stayed focused on that. It's real easy to get enamored with those big $130,000, switching out 27 toilets and urinals and faucets and that's stuff. But we realized that once you start bidding things, you bid away the profit. So,
Mhm.
we could show up, we could start working. We gave them what we call menu style pricing up front, and we'd lock and load, and there's a lot of more money to be made with Johnny on the spot. So,
Mhm.
and it was a little nerve-wracking when you had a couple of people sitting there at 2 o'clock when we were first getting up and going. But once we realized that the guy sitting there at 2 o'clock, when a Cushman Wakefield or a CBR Richard Ellis, or even your mom calls and says, "Hey, I need help," and we can say, "Oh, we'll be there in 45 minutes," or guaranteed 2 hours or less, and we show up. Guess who gets that next phone call and the next phone call and the next phone call?
Mhm.
And then, we pride ourselves on being 24/7, 365. Even after hours, we have drains, digs, plumbing. Um, and we have different divisions of emergency service. So one thing kind of begat the next, and we realized that we literally have more business than we can handle. What we didn't realize was that problem that we were having in Cincinnati, or the shortage of plumbers, the shortage of emergency service plumbers, is
Mhm.
literally nationwide. And now we've got
Yeah.
two in Canada. So apparently it's an international problem getting plumbers to show up quickly. So we just felt like this is a niche that we can fill. We wanted to make sure that we knew our market, which is women. And then
Mhm.
we call a lot of our look is about women's safety, women feeling comfortable in their home, and in business, and that's what we focused on, and we locked and loaded, and we were singularly purposed in that, and it's worked out really well so far. We just crossed the 100 unit mark, and killing it.
That's great, Rocky. And I love the inspiration behind the brand in terms of making it comfortable for women because most service calls are called by women or the women that are
Mhm.
at home for that service call. So obviously the pink branding,
Mhm.
and I know you had mentioned before, even the representatives that come to the house are in pink head to toe basically as well,
Yep.
correct? The technicians?
Well, the pink shirts, they do have, either if they're drains, they're black pants, and if they're just plumbing or dig crew, they're in khakis.
Awesome.
So, but yes, head to toe, the hats, even our booties are pink. You know,
That's great.
yeah,
Now,
and the
I
guys love it.
I bet they do because it's
They-
different for
they-
them and they stand
yeah.
out more and it gets them more jobs too. I want to now dive a little bit deeper into the franchise model and the performance of this brand. Like you said, you just hit your 100 mark for units. And
Mhm.
like I
Yep.
mentioned earlier, the average unit revenues are over 1.7 million per year. What is really driving that success for One Tom Plumber and its franchise units?
It's just we do something that most people won't do. Most of our competition will not have a guy standing by so that they
Mhm.
can get there quickly.
Right.
Most of our competition won't um, set themselves up for their customer base. They set themselves up because of things they like. We set things up. And truly we say that we're women's safety first. And the reason, people are like, well, that might alienate some men. Well, that's what is that, 18% of our customer base, or 17%. We're good
Right.
with that, but it hasn't. And the guys love it too. We get teased a little bit, here and there with some engineers, but short of that, we just knew that this is a niche, and we really fulfilled that. And we really thought that a lot of our competition would kind of start filling that backspace when they saw us grow, but it hasn't happened at all. The other thing that we've done is we have a system in place. We basically say that we are a sales organization that does
Mhm.
plumbing, drains, and digs. So we have a system in place. We call it womb to the tomb, where we're always selling the customer, giving them what they want. Not with and We always say that the need, everybody needs a car, right? And if everybody just needed a car, they would have a Kia.
Mhm.
But some people want to drive a Porsche or a big truck or whatever. So one of the things that we've really prided ourselves on doing is, once we're in the house, we don't give them what we think they want. We ask them questions, and we teach our guys, and we role play, giving the customer truly what they want. And that's why we just crossed the 5,000 five-star review mark. because we really pride ourselves on giving the customer what it is that they want, not what we want to sell them.
Absolutely. And
I'm not
you
sure
had
if I
just
answered your
mentioned.
question. I went off on a tangent there. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're good. I wanted to kind of touch, you mentioned in there that you train your guys on the
Mhm.
customer's needs and what they're wanting.
Yeah.
So, how are you ensuring that your franchisees are able to meet that 90-minute emergency response
Well,
promise?
it's 2 hours, but one of the things that we put literally in the contract is that on Tuesdays or one day a week, but we would recommend Tuesdays, that they're literally training their guys, and want them to have their guys training the other guys, whoever's good at something, on that, and we train our franchisees to teach their guys how to role play, how to get comfortable. Because we always say if you're role playing and you're comfortable in front of guys that are going to tease you and make fun of you, then
Mhm.
it's easy in front of the customer. And then one
Right.
of the other things that we do is we have an hour that we just do what we call our culture building hour, where we just talk about weekends and things like that. And we put both of those in the contract, where they have to do that. And on the culture building, we talk about reviews and how we make the customer happy and things like that.
Hmm.
So we just make sure that they're learning constantly, literally weekly, and they have to do it by contract. And sometimes they'll get, well, I'm so busy, I can't really spare that hour. And we feel you can't afford not to spare that hour. In fact, that's why we put it in there to where they have to do it.
Absolutely. And what kind of franchisees really thrive within your system? Do they need any plumbing experience or just a business acumen?
Yeah, most of our franchisees, I think we have four that already had a plumbing company that we've transitioned. But what we're really looking for is an entrepreneur, that understands systems, profitability, emergency service, or is willing to learn and follow the system. Because we always say, if you follow the system works. If you
Hmm.
want to get what we got, do what we do. And for the most part, we've been really, really lucky to get very systems-oriented franchisees and franchisees that understand the value of the emergency service piece, but also the profitability piece.
Absolutely. And earlier you had mentioned restoration business owners,
Mhm.
and often that add one Tom Plumber to their businesses because it is the same kind of lead source for them. Why is that
Yes.
such a good fit besides just the lead source portion of it?
Well, let's take your business or your house. Most of the time when you have a flood, it's because you've had a plumbing problem. So when you call to get the plumbing problem fixed, it's a great transition. It's a great lead source. It's an internal lead source to get your restoration company out there, to fix it after the plumbing need is finished. So it's literally a built-in lead source. So from transition from one to the other. So if you have a
Right.
busted pipe, a water heater blows, you got a drain backed up, it's really the customers love it because we come out and fix it, and then we bring in the restoration company after that to
Mm.
take care of that problem. So it's just like, again, I know the easiest way to say it, it's just a built-in lead source. And you pay a lot of money to get in someone's house, whether it's Google or hundreds of dollars usually. Well, if you've got the phone call already, then it's basically more profit for the restoration company because they don't have to pay for that lead. It comes directly from your own plumbing company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now kind of going into, let's say people are interested and now they're into the system. They've gone through the onboarding. What kind of training and support do you offer the new franchisees and what are they receiving on day one?
Well, we make sure that there's about a 90-day onboarding process. We won't let them open until they're 100% ready to go, that their system's in place. And then once they open, we have each one is assigned a coach that they talk to 2 and 3 times a day. And then after about 2 weeks, we send their coach in and they stay for 3 or 4 days to make sure that they're following their T's and I's. Usually there's a few things you have to fix because, as you know, when you start a business, it's a little chaotic. So we help them get back in, we help them organize, and then we don't leave until we see that they are comfortable with the system and how the system works. And then we literally talk to them every day. And that usually goes for about 3 to 4 months. And then it goes to about every other day until about 6 months. And in 6 months, it goes weekly. And at about the year mark, we talk to them, whatever the need is, but usually it's once a month. But there's been a couple of times where, like, say somebody brings in a new general manager, and then we'll go back in, teach the general manager how to do it. The other thing is too, the salespeople and the plumbing people come here, they get in trucks and they see how to do it the one-ton plumber way. And then get out in the field and learn how to, knock on the door, take a step back, etc.
Awesome.
And how we do things to make women feel comfortable in their business setting. Usually, it's the home or the business setting, on how we make the customer feel safe. We sell value, not price, and we make sure that we don't leave until the customer is 100% satisfied, because it's all about the reviews nowadays, so the phone will ring the next time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And now, kind of leaning in towards more of the marketing, lead generation, and operations. You had already mentioned somewhat of the operations, helping on
Mhm.
that 3 time a day, every day, once a week, and then moving on to that. But how does your guys' team help them with the marketing and lead generation portion of that if they don't already have that restoration
It's a
business to
it's a
help them?
great question. We asking great questions, but we do all of their SEO in-house.
Oh.
We do all the lead generation, which is about 50% of the lead generation. And the reason that's important is because the residential piece is cash flow, because there is no AR with residential. You show up, you do the job, and you walk out with the check. So you have to have a great SEO, digital content
Hmm.
creating piece. And we have a whole team that does that, to the point where out of all of our brand, it's about 50% of our overall revenue. So, and we handle that
Wow.
all in-house. We don't sub any of it out other than the creation of their individual website per city. Everything else is handled in-house, so we can control the quality of the leads they're getting. And then the other side is the commercial side. And then that's all about relationships and building relationships as it goes. So we call it the two-headed dragon, where one is in-house SEO and digital marketing, and the other one is the relationships on the commercial side. The downside to the commercial side is that, you do create AR. The good news is, though, a residential customer calls you once every 3 to 7 years. A, a commercial account calls you 3 to 7 times a month. So it's just a lot more business, a lot more consistency. Um, and they're just a great mix with each other, because one is cash flow and one is consistency.
Absolutely. And your guys' business has really scaled very quickly since you've started franchising. And
Mhm.
what's kind of been the biggest challenge in scaling this brand so quickly, and how have you overcome it and helped your franchisees to overcome it?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, for any business is getting real talent, and pulling plumbers or technicians is what we call them, from other companies. And a lot of times the older folks, the 35 and olders, they don't want to do 24/7. So that was the biggest challenge, was getting them to, one, buy into our system, and two, to make sure that we're changing them from the service plumber with their, we're our uniforms. So what we did was, how we overcame that challenge was, we started growing our own, is what we call it. So we're hiring personalities, and we put a training program in place to where they can come in, they can take a passenger seat on the truck, and they learn out in the field. In 3 to 4 months, we can normally get them to where they can do about 90% of our services. And these, with a young, talented, hardworking driver, and so you'll see that most of our um, technicians are 35 and under,
Hmm.
because you have to have a certain mindset. You have to have, the older technicians feel like they've done their time, and they're not going to leave dinner at 6 o'clock at night. And I get that. So, we just realized that we have to go younger, but we also have to hire personalities. and then train the personality up, because you can teach someone how to be a technician. You can't teach someone how to be a rock star. So we
Right.
try and hire rock stars and then train them into what we do. But and then
Absolutely.
one of the things that we do is we try brand wide to make sure that no one that's full time is making under less than $100,000. Um, so it's $100,000 plus job, and that was something that made it really easy to recruit people. That within
Mhm.
4, 5, maybe 6 months, they're going to be starting to get to the $100,000 mark. And you're talking about, guys that are 20 to 35 years old, and that
Right.
made it a lot easier. So that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of opens it up for those individuals that maybe don't even want to go to college and want to go into that trades but don't know what to do. They can still
Yeah.
make that type of income with being in that plumbing
Yeah.
industry, which is absolutely amazing that
Hmm.
someone is able to do that within the home services brand. And Rocky, a big question I have for you here is where do you see One Tom Plumber going within the next 5 years after just hitting your 100 unit mark this year?
Within the next 5 years, we really feel that we'll be at a 450 to 500 unit franchise. We've actually, it's funny because in 4.5 years, we topped the 100 mark, and we've signed 104, and we've got two more scheduled to sign. So we'll be at 106, a little, just bragging a little bit there. But there's been twice along the way that we've stopped selling franchises, for one time for 6 months and another time for 4 months, because we wanted to make sure the infrastructure and that we could bring people on. So we try and hire people. Like right now, we're hiring people for March in within the HQ, because we want to train people so that when we get to where we need them, they're ready. There's nothing worse than hiring someone after you need them. They never get caught up. So we're literally hiring people right now for February and March so that we can bring them in, make sure they're a rock star, get them trained up, and as we grow into them, we just move them over, and they're ready to go, and they know our system, and it's a lot more comfortable. And then because we did grow so fast and talent was hard, and you're learning so much, that we shut down for 6 months until we knew and felt that we had that infrastructure in place. And then once we did that, we hit the gas pedal again. And but we'll only grow to what we can handle. So we're not
Absolutely.
afraid to shut it off until we get the infrastructure ahead of what we need.
And that's great to hear that a brand that's growing as fast as One Tom Plumber is also is able to shut down their hiring process for new leads because
Mhm.
they want to make sure their current lead pool or franchisee pool is succeeding. And that I think was what makes you guys stand out above the rest of the plumbing industry because I don't think there's another brand that will shut down to make sure all of their franchisees are where they're supposed to be.
Well, thank you for saying that. But yeah, because it was more about I owned other franchises, and I was on that side of it. And I just remember not getting the support, but they were bragging about how fast they were growing and so on and so forth. And I never wanted to be on, I never wanted our guys to say things like that. So we always made sure that our guys we feel like we made sure that our franchisees were getting the support they needed before we could grow.
Absolutely. And Rocky, some closing questions I have for you here now are for anyone that's listening or watching this podcast episode today who might be considering getting into franchising for themselves, what advice would you give them?
It's a system. Be a systems person. If you're not going to be a systems person and follow the system, this franchising I don't feel is for you. And that's one of the big things that we look at, because a lot of people, entrepreneurs, they want to do it their way. Okay. And
Mhm.
that's fine. They've been successful doing that. But if you're going to buy a franchise, it's all systems. And if you follow the system and the system will work for you. So you want to make sure, one, you're a systems person. Two, that you're not afraid to scale. You're not afraid to move it forward. And three, try not to take any money out for the first 2 years. Literally grow your brand, whatever it is, whether it's plumbing or anything else. But try to, if you're already a successful entrepreneur, then you shouldn't need that money to live off of. but it's my experience that if you'll take those 2 years, you'll build it the way it's supposed to be. You follow the system, then you're making money hand over fist. Everybody I know that's taking that approach does really, really well. Everybody that I know starts taking money out within, 3, 6 months to a year, struggles a little bit more because they don't always have the cash flow they need to grow the business the way they're supposed to or scale it the way they're supposed to. So those are my three things. Is one, make sure you follow the system. Two, make sure that you are um, profit and customer service minded. And three, really just make sure that you don't pull money out and you use the money to grow at least for the first 2 years. That would be my advice.
Perfect. And Rocky, for anybody that's interested in One Tom Plumber itself, where can people go to learn more about franchising with you?
That's thank you for that shameless plug and I appreciate it. But you can go to onetompplumber.com or onetom.com and hit the franchise button, or you can send a email me directly at rocky@onetom.com. So would love to talk to you. We'll spend an hour on the phone, kind of getting to know each other and making sure that it's a good fit before we move it forward. You can ask any questions you want, and but we reserve the right to do the same because a lot of it's about fit. That's also, you
Mhm.
got to make sure that you get with the right brand that fits your personality and something that you can get excited about. Because the more excited you are about the brand, the more successful you're going to be.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me here on this episode of the Eagle Eye Perspective, Rocky. And a huge thank you again for sharing the story behind One Tom Plumber. I know that it's a story that you love telling, so thank you for sharing it and showing us how bold the brand service reliability is.
Yeah.
And the franchise support that you can get from within One Tom Plumber and create a thriving business model. If you're ready to explore One Tom Plumber or any other franchise opportunity, please go ahead and visit www.eagleeyebrokers.com/let's get started to book your free consultation. Until next time, keep your vision sharp and keep your goals in focus. Rocky, thank you again.